We'll be here all day today gathering factual evidence of the scenes, and afterwards we'll be conducting witness interviews, and then afterwards we will recover the aircraft to a secured facility where we will continue our factual investigation and gathering stage. As far as witnesses are concerned, if anybody has seen anything or even thinks they've seen anything, please contact the NTSB at witness@ntsb.gov. That's witness@ntsb.gov. Thank you. After we gather our data in about 14 days, we will publish a preliminary report, and depending on the complexities of the investigation, a final report with a probable cause will be issued in about 12 to 24 months. I would like to take this time to put out a thank you to the Watsonville Fire Department, the Watsonville Police Department, the Watsonville Municipal Airport Operations, the Santa Cruz Sheriff's Department, and the California Highway Patrol. Everyone has provided a safe and accessible scene for us to work in, and we thank you. We'd also like to thank the Good Samaritans who came to the aids at the airport. That's my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes, sir.
This airport does not have a tower, so the pilots have to talk to each other as they're coming in for landings and takeoffs. Do you have any information as to if these two aircrafts or the pilots were talking to each other? If so, what was said? Or
the airport is an uncontrolled airport. There is no tower here, and the aircraft, people in the traffic pattern will communicate through a common traffic advisory frequency. We are working to get the radio communications that were occurring at that day.
Have you already announced where the planes were coming in from?
What the information we have right now, it has not been, this is preliminary, sir, but we have what appears to be one aircraft operating in the traffic pattern and one aircraft coming into the airport to land.
But where they left off from?
That information I don't have yet, sir.
Don't they have to log a flight plan?
Flight plans, visual flight rules, flight plans are a voluntary topic, and that is certainly something that we're going to be looking into. Yes, sir.
Can you confirm the number of deceased and names?
The names of the deceased will be released by the appropriate
Number of deceased?
Right now, we are at 3.
is that the total number of people involved, or?
That appears to be the total number of people involved in the 2 accidents, yes, sir. Or the 1 accident, the 2 aircraft.
Was there a pet, a dog involved in the accident too?
I was told that, and I was told that the dog has been taken away.
But he survived?
No, ma'am.
Deceased?
Yes, ma'am. Sir.
And that was on plane 1 or plane 2? Was that on the smaller single engine or the?
From my understanding, it was on the Cessna 340, which would be the larger airplane. Yes, sir.
You mentioned Good Samaritans. What was their role in this?
Well, from what I understand and the information that I have right now is that they're providing witness statements and were assisting as they could.
Are they Watsonville residents?
That, ma'am, I do not know.
You know which plane had the more passengers, 2 in one in the other? Do you know which one had the 2?
The Cessna 340 had 2 occupants, and the Cessna 152 had 1 occupant.
So the Cessna 340 had the 2 occupants and the dog? Okay.
Yes, sir.
This might be a question for Rayvon for airport management, but can you just walk us through what the procedures are for people taking off from Watsonville Airport and coming into Watsonville Airport? Should they have to communicate with anybody, or is it just they come and go as they please? Or?
Well, I can answer that by telling you, in an uncontrolled airport, common traffic advisory frequencies are available for the pilots to use to announce their actions, both coming and going.
And so they do not need to actually use the frequency. It's just there as a tool for them to use.
That would be correct. Yes, sir.
So they don't have to? They're not required to?
There's no requirement that I'm aware of that makes an individual have to use a common traffic advisory frequency.
Can you explain just how rare it is for G planes to collide here?
I don't have that data to provide to you, sir, at this time.
What were the conditions yesterday?
Pardon me, ma'am?
What were the conditions yesterday?
As far as weather, well, I will tell you that we are going to look into the man, machine, and the environment as we continue with this investigation. So weather, the information I don't have to provide to you right now, but weather is absolutely going to be something that we will look into.
You mean instead of the man or woman, machine?
That would be correct. The person, machine, and environment.
Did the lack of a tower come into play in this incident happening?
A lack of a communication tower?
Yeah, like a lack
Or a control tower?
of uncontrolled airport.
I would say that the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency is the tool that is there for the pilots to use when operating in uncontrolled airports that do not have a control tower.
Director Williams, has there ever been any talk of putting a tower here?
Sir.
When you say talk of putting a tower here, bringing an air traffic control tower to a municipal airport or any airport requires approval of the FAA, and it requires a commitment or a potential change of airspace. The airspace around Watsonville at this particular time, nor the volume of traffic, would support the cost of bringing a control tower to the field.
Director, have you had a similar collision here?
No, in my time here, I've been here since July of 2011, we have never had a collision of this nature.
Do you have condolences to pass on to the families?
Most certainly we do. On behalf of the City of Watsonville, the Municipal Airport, and our staff, we certainly have condolences to pass on to the family, the individuals in the 340 and the Cessna 152.
And right now you're not releasing as far as the information connected to the tail numbers or anything?
As noted by the NTSB, that's going to be released by the authorities that are responsible for that.
Are all the victims in this adults?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, what's the mood here at the airport? I understand one of those planes, a smaller one at least, may have been based out of this airport, and I'm sure this is a small knit community. How's the mood? What's the feeling here? You could give us a sense of that.
Yeah. And as noted by the NTSB, I can't give any information on the origins of the aircraft. That's still in investigation. But I can tell you that the airport itself is a very strong community, like many municipal airports such as we have here. Anytime that there's an accident or there's a concern, whether it's a loss of life, which is the most serious, or someone has a flat tire on the ramp, it's a small community, and there are people here that certainly are grieving. Everyone is doing everything they can to assist us, and we're just very much saddened by this event, and we're going to wait for the investigation before we make any other comment.
This may be a question for the NTSB, but we saw that the single-engine Cessna with matching tail number had been involved in a previous incident in Florida in about 2017. Are you able to confirm that?
Not at this time, but we do have the ability to do the research that would require that, absolutely.
Is the airport open?
Pardon me, ma'am?
Is the airport open?
The airport is open, yes, ma'am. Sir, we can take just a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I heard from one witness that one of the planes was making a very unusual approach. Was that something you can comment on? Have you heard anything along these lines, please?
Nothing along the lines of an unusual approach. Airplane turning base to final is in a traffic pattern. An airplane flying a straight-in approach is flying a straight-in approach. Sir.
Along the lines of that, we heard that maybe the bigger plane may have been approaching too fast.
Well, airspeed into in the approach phase to the airport is an area that we're going to be looking at. I don't have that data in front of me to comment on, but we will absolutely be looking into that.
We'll take one more last question.
Thank you, ma'am.
I know you're not necessarily just because you're waiting for approval to release, but do we know the gender of the people that passed?
I'm going to wait for the appropriate authorities to give that out. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Will there be another briefing?
Let me talk with the leadership on that, and I will let the airport manager.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
You've been watching a press conference out of Watsonville where two planes crashed into one another at around 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon above the skies of the airport. Authorities said that a single-engine Cessna 152 plane with one person aboard collided with a twin-engine Cessna 340 plane that had two people aboard. Both planes were approaching the airport when that crash happened mid-air, and you heard that they are looking into speed in case that might have been a factor and how they were approaching their landing point at that time. It's going to maybe take another 1 to 2 years, as this investigation can take that long to really learn what caused that crash. We did see a bit of wind in that area, but not anything too wild of weather on our end. The Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office did confirm today that there were no survivors. Identities of the victims will not be released until the Sheriff's Office has notified their families. A hangar at the Watsonville Airport was also damaged in that crash. The NTSB and FAA are both investigating at this time.